Your unique story, our global audience. Global One Media.
Hello, and welcome to our series of interviews with decision makers and senior leaders of companies across the board to help you, our viewers, make informed and intelligent investment decisions. I am Munir Barazi, your business analyst and host, and today I'm pleased to welcome Lance Alstodt, the CEO and chairman of BioRestorative Therapies, a company that specializes in the production of therapeutic solutions using cell and tissue-based protocols by relying on adult stem cells. The company is listed on the NASDAQ as BRTX. Hello, Lance. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate being here.
For sure. So for our audience that is not yet familiar with BioRestorative Therapies, can you please tell us about the company, the great scientific minds behind it, and your vision for the future?
Sure. Just a very high level, we're a NASDAQ listed publicly traded cell therapy company. We've got two primary platform technologies that are very well protected with multi-applications in large billion-dollar market opportunities. Those two programs are, the first is musculoskeletal health. We have a spine program specifically within musculoskeletal, where we've received approval from the FDA to initiate a phase 2 clinical trial. So that's a very active in-clinic program. And then we have a second preclinical program using brown fat for metabolic diseases. And again, it addresses some large and growing markets such as obesity and type 2 diabetes and other metabolic disease. The vision is really taking cell therapies that we have novel and proprietary processes and methods of developing these product candidates and really addressing these large unmet needs for people in musculoskeletal health-related issues such as chronic lumbar disc disease and other avascular zones where they're in chronic pain or degenerative diseases. And then on the metabolic side, it's a similar concept using allogeneic cells that we can differentiate and influence into product candidates that will address some of these large markets associated with some of the large markets that are plaguing the world today as it relates to type 2 diabetes and obesity, which have so many other comorbidities.
Very promising. And those are tenacious diseases. What is the standard of care today for chronic lower back pain?
Yeah, it's really sad that as evolved as we are as a society, we don't really have a very efficacious standard of care. So, for example, the market itself for chronic lumbar disc disease, we're talking about in the U.S. alone, maybe up to 65 million patients that suffer. And today, if you have chronic lumbar disc disease or just lower back pain, you'll go to your spine specialist, and what they'll do is most likely prescribe you an opioid. And 100,000 Americans each year die of opioid addiction, which is a far cry from a good solution. So it'll hurt you from a wallet perspective as well as from a health perspective. And outside of opioids, I mean, you have epidurals, there are steroids, there are PRP injections that may mask the pain and may take 3 to 6 months to reintroduce the pain. So you're constantly going back for these shots, but they don't really have any permanent effect. Outside of that conservative therapy is what we call it. There is surgical intervention. Now, surgical intervention has its issues in of itself. Now, what we're talking about here are spine fusions and discectomies and motion preservation devices, all these instrumentations that are being put into the body that are keeping the discs from moving in a full range of motion. And there's about a 30% revision rates on some of these procedures, which means that the patient has to go back and get these surgeries done a second or even a third time without getting the pain relief that they've been hoping for. So these procedures can be really costly as well. Sometimes it's $150,000 to $200,000 per procedure. And the insurance companies are now starting to really push back and ask the surgeons to go through and conduct more diagnostics on these patients in order to prove that these procedures are truly necessary, given some of the high revision rates. So we find that there's this chasm of opportunity between this conservative therapy and surgical intervention for our product, which is really a cell-based, hypoxically cultured mesenchymal cell that has transitioned into a cell that expresses certain characteristics of therapeutic benefits. It has a cell that demonstrates a higher degree of anti-inflammatory properties, an increase in circulation, an enhancement of remodeling and rebuilding the cell in order to really fix the problem. So we're not looking to mask the pain. We're looking to solve mechanically the problem within the disc. And we do this all with a single injection into the nucleus of the disc under fluoroscopy that's economically efficient, that's minimally invasive without all of the trauma of surgical intervention or the addictive nature of the opioids. And what we've demonstrated so far is through investigator-initiated studies that there's a lot of human experience. A study that was done with 33 patients that shows that this product is not only safe but efficacious. So we're going through right now under the auspices of the FDA a 99-patient prospective randomized double-blinded controlled study, a gold standard, the best of its kind, under the FDA. And we're currently enrolling patients, and we are coming up to a big data reveal as it relates to our safety run-in. So we're going to have a safety profile meeting with what's called a DSMB, and that will happen at some point, potentially in the second quarter of this year.
Fascinating. It sounds like you're taking those therapies to a new level, and it's very unfortunate that patients are going through all of that. Could you expand a bit?
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you asked. Cell-based therapies are not a new phenomenon. People have been trying to work with cell-based therapies for years and years. They've just been going about it the wrong way. And they've been, either from a manufacturing perspective or from a regulatory perspective, there's some really smart providers out there that have, done autologous cell-based therapy where they've harvested bone marrow-derived mesenchymal cells, and they have spun them bedside and reintroduced them back to the office. The problem is, from a regulatory perspective, we don't know the composition of that matter. We don't know what's truly being implanted back into that body. So what we're doing is doing it really with the FDA under their watch, making sure that we have specific release criteria. We know exactly what each of those cells look like. We're putting in an exact amount of 40 million cells that are hypoxically cultured and expanded and then reintroduced back into the body. And the reason we culture them under hypoxia is because the environment of the disc is a very harsh environment. It's got low blood flow, it's got low pH, it's got low circulation. And what we're trying to do is really mimic that environment by doing it in a low oxygen tension. We also find that culturing cells in low oxygen tension brings out all of these therapeutic benefits relative to normoxically cultured cells, or cells that are cultured with an oxygen tension of about 20%, which is like the air that we breathe. It makes no sense to me or any of our scientific advisors to culture cells and expand them in a normoxic environment and then put them into a really harsh avascular zone within the body. So we believe that gives us tremendous amount of optimism that we're going to be successful, and some of the prior human experience and the literature is highly suggestive that what we're doing is going to be efficacious.
And speaking of the literature, could you expand a bit on one of your products, which is BRTX 100? It seems very promising. What makes you so optimistic about it?
So, like I mentioned before, we had an investigator-initiated study that was done out of from a group of clinicians in Colorado, and they looked at 33 patients. They treated 33 patients with an earlier version of our product. Now, our product has since evolved into a more potent, more institutionally manufactured product. But what they were using is what I would refer to as an early generation of BRTX 100, and they dosed 33 patients. All 33 patients did well. This study has been published. They increased their functionality and reduced their pain by more than 30%. There was also a subset of those patients that we followed over a period of 5 to 7 years, and each of those patients maintained the level of pain reduction and functionally improvement over that period of time. So that gives us great optimism that what we're doing in a much more controlled and a more meticulous design protocol with a more potent product should also yield those type of results, which is in line with what our primary endpoints are that's been laid out for us in connection with our study. So it's a really exciting opportunity that we have. It's rare that you get to conduct a phase 2 study with having some precedent or some human experience with the product prior to doing your evaluation to validate the technology. We also did an animal study that we sponsored, and there's also prior written literature on human experience using mesenchymal cells that have been cultured and expanded and implanted into humans for musculoskeletal health, and the results are all very compelling. So, we're optimistic. We think this is going to be a paradigm-shifting technology. We think a lot of the large spine players and pain management and large cap pharmaceutical companies are going to need to strategically, engage with this type of discussion as the efficacy data starts to roll out.
Very encouraging, and it seems you're accelerating this paradigm shift you're talking about. If you could also tell our viewers about the patents you have received so far.
Yeah, so we just announced a new patent last week. It was quite incredible. We put out a press release on the fact that we got a notice of allowance for one of our U.S.-based brown fat patents. Our shares traded close to 35 million shares that day, almost as much as Apple, which was quite exciting. I guess people really enjoyed that news. But we have a very well protected company in both of our platform technologies. In the spine program or the musculoskeletal health program, we have 12 applications. We've got 2 issued patents. We've got 10 that are pending. In our metabolic program, we have about 25 applications. We've got 19 patents that are issued and 6 that are pending. And these are for, composition and methods and process. We've got, a whole host of ancillary products that are around our core technology that are also protected, whether it has to do with the delivery system or some cell aggregates that we've been using in order to generate, 3-dimensional brown adipocyte derived stem cell matrices.
Very impressive portfolio of patents.
And I will tell you that we have recently hired some additional PhDs to help broaden and expand our intellectual product position, both domestically and outside of the U.S. We've been working and evolving each of our products, and in that process, we've come upon some major discoveries that have yet to be announced that we will be, hopefully talking about as some of this patent activity unfolds.
Very promising. And I want to talk with you a bit about the financial situation of BioRestorative Therapies. Could you give us some highlights of your balance sheet and perhaps some important financial metrics?
Yeah, sure. Look, in this sector right now, in the micro cap biopharma space, we're very fortunate because we have significant capital to prosecute our clinical programs. We have a pristine balance sheet. Based on the last quarter that was reported, we had 16.3 million of cash. We have zero debt. We have zero convertible notes. We have no historical warrants related to the company prior to our uplist onto NASDAQ. So it's very clean, very investable. We intend to raise more capital at the appropriate time. We constantly evaluate the financial markets to understand what our alternatives look like. And we will do so in a very thoughtful and deliberate way. We want to always make sure that we're optimized in order to prosecute our programs. And fortunately, we're in that position today.
That's a solid financial position, and you're also growing your assets with the patents you've received and the ones you're working on as well. My last question, what factors do you think will help BioRestorative Therapies outperform the market in the near or medium future?
Well, it's a good question. I'm not sure what the market will do in terms of its performance. I really focus on, how do we build the right fundamental story here within BioRestorative? How do we continue to check off these fundamental value enhancing catalysts that will drive our value as we continue to evolve. And the first catalyst I would say that's right out of the gate will be our safety review analysis. So we have a group of sentinel patients in our phase 2 clinical trial that are being evaluated for safety. So we will be talking to the market about when those subjects have been fully enrolled, and then once they're enrolled, we will treat them, and then we will set up a meeting with the DSMB, which is the Safety Review Board, and we'll get either a green light from the Safety Review Board that the safety profile of the product has been established, or not. We're optimistic based on what we've seen so far that we will get the green light. But we don't know. We have to go through the work to find out. If we do, that's a really important milestone for the company because it enables us to accelerate the balance of our phase 2 enrollment of our 99 patients. It also obviously establishes the safety profile of the product, which is a great thing. But most importantly, it enables us to really leverage that platform into using that product into other parts of the body. So then we should expect another indication, another IND approval from the FDA, in which we'll seek to go into a different part of the body once we've established the safety profile. And we'll really leverage our existing safety run-in terms of getting a sort of fast track approval from the FDA into another indication. We also have a group of very enthusiastic PIs who are interested in working with this product because they've seen it in connection with the use of chronic lumbar disc disease, and they want to use it in other avascular zones. They think it's very suitable to go into hips, knees, shoulders, extremities. So, to be able to leverage this platform technology across a variety of different areas of the body is really the vision that I have for the program. And it may not just be musculoskeletal. At the end of the day, these are very powerful cells. We can use this for COVID-related indications. We can use this for neurological-related indications where there is cell death. Think about that in terms of the brain or the heart for cardiac-related issues like heart attacks and strokes and things of that nature. So we have a really big whiteboard. And our vision is really to leverage this core technology across all of these different indications over time in a very thoughtful, economically efficient way. And some may be through future financings, other may be through strategic partnerships, but we continue to evaluate our strategic and financial alternatives every single day.
There's a lot of potential indeed. Lance Alstodt, the CEO and Chairman of BioRestorative Therapies, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing.
It's been a pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
The pleasure is ours. We look forward to hearing more from BioRestorative Therapies soon.
The ticker is BRTX. Thank you.
Thank you.